Now let's spend a few moments talking about arrays. An array differs from a matrix in that it extends beyond 2 dimensions. You could think of a matrix as a special kind of array with just 2 dimensions, whereas arrays can go beyond 2 dimensions, 3, 4, 5 dimensions. Working with arrays is an extension of what we use to work with matrices, just like working with matrices is an extension of what we use to work with vectors. We can create an array with the array function. I'm doing that here. Notice, just like with a matrix, we supply a vector, but then just specify the dimensions. Here's our array. Notice that a 3-dimensional array can be thought of as 2 matrices. We can name the dimensions at the time of creation. So here I'm naming the rows, the columns, and then I'm going to call them M1 and M2 for matrix 1 and matrix 2. Now we have rows and columns, and we have 2 matrices. We can also name them after creation. Let me go ahead and cancel out the names using the null. So here it is without the names. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the dim names for my array, just like we do with a matrix, but we extend it. By now I have 3 vectors in my list rather than 2. Accessing elements of arrays is an extension of accessing elements of a matrix. So here's my array at location 2, that's row 2, 3, column 3, and matrix 2. So row 2, column 3 of matrix 2, that's the 8. Here's another access, this time all rows, only column 2, but both matrices. I can also use this to assign elements. So here I'm going to split the matrices up into 2. So my matrix 1 is going to be all rows, all columns, but only the first matrix, and my matrix 2, all rows, all columns, and the second matrix. So there's the first matrix, there's the second. As with matrices, we can apply mathematical operations across the array. And note that this is not matrix multiplication, this is just multiplying every element of the array by 2. So the characteristics of arrays. It is a multidimensional atomic object. It is a vector of vectors of vectors, and so on, depending upon how many dimensions you have. For 2 dimensions, it's a vector of vectors. For 3 dimensions, a vector of vectors, and so on. The class is array, and the default attribute is dimensions. Subsetting is just an extension of how we subset with matrices. And mathematical operations apply across all the elements of an array.